I'm Kirk Upton. I'm the chair of the history department at Worcester Academy, and I've been here for 7 years.
My name is Herlihy, and I am one of the instructors in the history department. This year I'm teaching American Studies, and I've been at Worcester Academy this is my 3rd year at Worcester Academy teaching. One of the focuses of the American Studies class this year is to make real-world connections, so that we're not just looking at history in a textbook, we're looking at history that's happening right outside of our doors. There are a couple of recent projects that we've been working on where we've attempted to make real-world connections, and I think we were pretty successful. The first one is the Mark Twain project, which focused on identifying, one aspect of it was identifying who is the American. Mark Twain had made the comment that he is not an American, but the American. So we had students actually blogging with their nominations for who in the 20th or 21st century best highlights or epitomizes the idea of who is the American. So they had to understand the history of it, but then make a connection to modern day. They had to think critically about that, provide evidence, and put it on a blog so that they're communicating with each other using modern technology.
So I think one of the key elements of the idea of a real-world education and what we're doing in the American Studies class is that we're not focusing on isolated facts that are 150, 200 years old. Instead, what we're focusing on as a starting point is the skill sets. How do you construct an argument? How do you locate information and identify what's critical and make decisions about it? And then convey your understanding, your impressions, your ideas to a wide audience, whether it's through making a movie, doing a PowerPoint, writing an essay, but putting skills at the centerpiece instead of simply that listing of the names of old dead people, which in isolation isn't particularly relevant and doesn't translate beyond the classroom walls. It's not something that a student can carry with them in terms of striking up a conversation, having a job interview, contributing to the world. Those aren't things that are based on when was somebody president. They're based on what can you do, what can you contribute to this organization, how can you convince or convey understandings, ideas, the basis on which to make some decisions. So by putting the skills component first and foremost, it reshapes how we approach the classroom, how we approach the material, so that we're tapping into units that are going to enable us to explore, interpret, and communicate what it is we're trying to get at. The Twain unit's a great example. It was in collaboration with the English department. They wanted to have the students reading Huckleberry Finn. We then tried to build out of that, what could we do with this? Where are the themes? Where are the big issues? What become the research points? How are we going to communicate that? Let's shift into something more meaningful. We'll make a movie, post it onto YouTube. So it's looking from that skills perspective first helps to break down the walls.
Well, I also think that as you look at all these new technologies that you have, like the iMovies, like posting an iMovie on a blog, or on YouTube, I should say, and also blogging, we're giving them the skill set where they can still think critically, formulate an opinion and an argument, and then post that on the blog. So they still have to have the same skill set that they can then apply to these modern forms of communication. And if they don't have that skill set, then they aren't going to be able to effectively communicate in the world today using modern technology. So I like the idea that we're incorporating both in the Twain unit and the immigration unit this idea of the blog, because when you read some of the postings on the immigration blog, they are extremely thoughtful. They've thought about this, they've thought critically about it, they've analyzed it, and they've given their opinion with something backing it up. So I think we've seen benefits from teaching that skill set first, and then applying that skill set to, like you said, the information. And I also think that the relevance to today is key for them. I think it makes it more meaningful, as you said, than someone that lived 200 years ago. How does that have a connection to today? We're making those connections to today, and I think the students are then going to retain that information more than just a date in history. And I think with the immigration unit in particular, by bringing in the guest speakers, they actually got to we put a face on immigration. It's not just a number. And that even applies to, what's going on in Arizona today. They're not out in Arizona. They aren't seeing that. Maybe they watch the news, but it's still numbers. It's still out there, where this brought people that are local to the Worcester area who have just come to the United States. What are their experiences? And how does this either prove or disprove what we've been learning about immigration over the past 200 years? And I think one of the things that they found is that it broke a few stereotypes that we had about immigration. And they noticed that, and they commented on that in the blog. They, able to just understand that these people have a life and family. They have a story to tell that's important and relevant to today.